Hey, I'm Neil, and this is A Cup of Hope, the show where I drink a cup of coffee and talk to people about some of the messy and difficult areas of life, areas where all of us need some more hope. Let's do it. So hey guys, I'm glad you've joined us for Thursday Night Live. I'm glad to be part of your life for a few minutes each of these Thursday nights for the next 5 weeks. And my hope is that you will be filled with hope, because there is probably nothing more discouraging than to go day in and day out and to feel hopeless about a certain situation, or maybe just the trajectory of your life, or even the state of our world. I got to tell you, my desire to do this second season of Thursday Night Live and call it A Cup of Hope came from a very personal place in my own life where I felt just very kind of dead and very flat and somewhat hopeless about where my life was going, about whether I was going to be able to keep up and do the things that I needed to do, and whether it was all meaningless, that kind of stuff. And that was just earlier this year. I reached out to a counselor, reached out to my doctor, and they recommended time away from my work. And something else important happened, I feel. I reached out to a guy that I thought had been where I had been before. And that guy's name is Tim Guptill. He's our guest tonight. And we had a talk. I was over visiting on Grand Manan. We went for a drive. I asked him to go out for a cup of coffee. Just wondered if he would share a little bit of what he had been through. And our conversation, it didn't fix anything, but it gave me hope. There's a verse in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 12, that says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when desire comes, it's a tree of life." And I think my conversation with Tim helped me to see a little more clearly who I was and who I wasn't and what was going on in my life, and just gave me a little bit of an indication of where I needed to go to start finding my way through this. And Tim was a tremendous help to me and a tremendous encouragement to me. And not only did we go out for that cup of coffee regularly throughout the summer, Tim kept in touch with me, and that just meant so much. And he asked how I was doing, just checking in. You know, he wasn't preachy, even though Tim's a good preacher. But I wanted him to be able to share some of his journey with you guys, because maybe tonight you're feeling kind of tired out, kind of worn out, a little bit hopeless. And again, that makes us feel sick when we lose hope. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. But I hope tonight as you listen, that desire starts to come back and you start to see a bit of a path forward. So here it is, my conversation with Tim Guptill. I want to welcome Mr. Tim Guptill to Thursday Night Live tonight. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, Neil.
Hey, it's good to have you, and I'm looking forward to our chat tonight that is going to bring hope to some people, I think, who really need it. And I personally just want to say that you have been an instrument in my life really recently. Some of the stuff that I've struggled with and gone through, and you brought hope to me. And so that's kind of how we ended up here today, everybody. I wanted Tim just to be able to share a little bit of the things that he shared with me and his story, his journey. But before we get to that, we should do the obligatory Cup of Hope reveal.
Raising of the mug.
What are you like that?
I do, yeah. I've got a daughter named, not Cup of Hope, but she's named Hope.
She's not Cup of Hope.
Not Cup of Hope.
But she brings several cups of hope to people on a daily basis.
Is a handful.
Tim and his wife and daughter run a cafe called Newton's Mercantile and Cafe on Graham and Ann. I'll let him tell a little more about that. But what do you got in the mug today?
This is Americano. We call it Area 38. It's a medium dark roast, and it has really become our favorite coffee. And so I just made it this downstairs in the cafe that's in my house, and I'm kind of spoiled. And that's what I'm drinking. We get our coffee from Java Blend in Halifax, fresh roasted and really good. Love it.
Cool. Well, I've got the Dark and Dirty espresso blend, roasted by Starbucks, but packaged by Kirkland for Costco.
Yeah.
That big old bag of stuff, but it's, are you a French press guy? Are you a perk guy, a pour over guy?
See, I've got this.
Guy.
I have lots of ways to make coffee in my house, but there's nothing better. I don't think there's anything better than our commercial espresso machine, our Simonelli Appia machine just makes a terrific coffee. So it's pretty hard to beat, to just go to the machine. How did you make your coffee this morning?
Well, this one is a pour over, which would be second rate for me just for time because my French press was still full of this morning's grinds.
Right.
Didn't get it cleaned out yet, but I'm a French press guy. Like the murkier, the better for me.
Ooh, sooty.
Yeah, a little bit. Why don't you just make a little bit of an intro that would give people a sense of who you are?
Sure.
Even though I'm sure many know of the fame of Tim Guptill, but tell us, for who's watching tonight and who's going to watch down the road, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you would describe you, what you love doing, and kind of what you're all about.
Sure. So, well, I'm married to Gayla. That's the most important thing, probably. And she's a Gayla Craig, and lots of people would know her. And she grew up on a dairy farm in Ontario, and I was born here on Graham and Ann. And so together we are surf and turf. And two daughters, Hope and Autumn. Hope lives here on the island, as we just said. Autumn is in her third year of nursing at Indiana Wesleyan University. And I've been a Wesleyan pastor since I graduated from what we used to call Bethany Bible College, now Kingswood. Graduated from there in 1992, so I'm not young. And creeping up on 28, 29 years of, I think I'm in my 29th year of ministry. And we've served in a variety of roles in a variety of church sizes. Been on staff in smaller churches, been on staff in bigger churches, and I've pastored small churches in Atlantic Canada, and I've pastored larger churches in Atlantic Canada. And so a few years ago, the district asked me if I would come and serve here on Graham and Ann. And being born here and loving Graham and Ann and all that. And this is where my family, this is where all my roots are. Graham and Ann had 3 Wesleyan churches that they merged into one. And part of the merger meant none of the churches get to keep their property. We're going to build a brand new facility, and it's going to be a fresh start for everyone. And the district asked me to come and pastor that. And so at the same time, kind of a convergence, we had been looking at the building that I'm sitting in right now, which is a 100-year-old, beautiful old building. There was a general store on Graham and Ann. Mm-hmm. And so we did both things at the same time. We came to leave the church, and we bought this building and transformed it into the cafe. And so that's who we are and what we do, and we get to live here in paradise. And it is a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. If you've never been to Graham and Ann, do it. It's a part of New Brunswick that New Brunswickers need to see.
Yeah.
You'll be more proud of your province after you see Grand Manan. It's that spectacular. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say, why would you move to Grand Manan? Why would anyone live in Grand Manan? And yeah, I think your answer was, who wouldn't want to live here? Look around. The ocean, like we're on top of it.
It's unreal.
So before you got to Grand Manan, you'd been through, I guess what I've kind of termed in my life, and maybe for yours too, maybe you have different terminology. I call it burnout. And you can tell us a little bit about your journey, Tim, and what you've been through, if you would, and what you call it, how you describe it, what you started seeing in yourself that caused concern.
Sure. Yeah. I don't use the word burnout a lot. No, I don't know that I intentionally tried to avoid it. I generally tell people that it was a health crisis. Burnout was certainly a part of that, but there were multiple things going on that, and burnout probably was one of the things that was happening all at the same time. I was pastoring Moncton Wesleyan Church, a large church with just a lot of responsibility, and I had been at the Moncton Church. I'd been on staff at Moncton years ago, served there on staff for 5 years, and then was away for, I think, 7 years. And then they brought me back to do the transition with Dr. Buckingham. And about 4.5 years into that is when I crashed. And looking back, I mean, looking back's a wonderful thing, but I could see now the signs of that, some indicators, even when I was pastoring Crosspoint Church in Fredericton. But we didn't know at the time what those things were, but looking back, it makes sense. But at the time, it would have been hard to connect those dots. Yeah. And but as we talk through this tonight, maybe I'll mention some things, and other people will say, "Ooh, well, I see that in my life. Maybe that's similar." So back when I was pastoring at Crosspoint, there were times when I thought I was having a severe allergic reaction. Those were the symptoms, but I know now that it was a panic attack. But my doctor didn't know what it was, and so I was having that back at Crosspoint. Just didn't know what it was, and so about 4.5 years into Moncton, that's when I hit the wall and had to unplug. And but like I said, Neil, it was a real combination of things. I had in a short amount of time, I'd lost my father. And I'd lost about 1.5 years later, I lost my brother, who passed away suddenly at 52 years old. I had the move, the relocation to Moncton was a very tough one for us as a family. I mean, I give Gayla all the credit in the world. She's always been all in on ministry and following God's call, but this was a big one. It was a really tough one, and quite frankly, neither one of us wanted to do it. We were invited to go, had the opportunity, but there was no reason to leave where we were. And I literally heard a voice in the night wake me up and say, "It's okay, go to Moncton, I'll be with you." And so we felt like, well, we've got to follow that. There's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
And so, just a lot of factors, a lot of things at the church that were very stressful. And over time, that was eroding my mental health, my physical health, everything, my leadership. So it got to the point where I knew, like, this is not sustainable, and so I started reaching out probably for help, say like in June, and then by October I was totally taking a leave of absence from work.
Mm-hmm. What were, like you mentioned, panic attacks that you just didn't know were that at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which is surprising because I've always seen you as such a calm, together, and
Right.
kind of cool-headed kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes in stride, and so you just never know what people are dealing with, right? But
Right.
what there was that. Were there other warning signs that you saw kind of on the dashboard, like some lights going
Well,
on?
funny thing is, like with anxiety, like I am a laid back person. I've always been very laid back, but anxiety doesn't care, right? It just doesn't. It's so, and it there's no warning to it or anything like that. And so you asked about other symptoms. I would say, yeah, there were lots. Like I would be driving for a period of time and think, I don't even know how I don't remember turning here, or I don't know how I got here. Just completely overwhelmed. Um, when you're avoiding things that should not be that hard, but you're just avoiding all tasks, when you start avoiding people,
Mhm.
when getting up to go to work is hard, and there's just a real heaviness about it. Avoiding conversations, uh, those types of things are signs. With me, like I didn't get like real. I don't think there was a lot of where I got really short with people or that sort of thing. I would I would just tend to get quiet, um, and withdrawn a lot from people.
Yeah.
Um, just avoiding social environments, work environments, anything like that. And but the anxiety and the burnout and it I'm sure it's different for other people, but with me it felt like I was slowly sliding off a cliff, uh, very helpless. And when I finally did something about it and looked up to see who or what is pushing me off this cliff, it was me. I looked up, like, you know who's this person, what is this? And you know it was me. There were things there that I needed to face. Yeah.
Probably hard for all of us, but how hard was it for you to admit, like, and come face to face with that? Like, I can't do
Well,
this
I
anymore.
was I truly was desperate, because I knew this is not sustainable. And you either, if you don't listen to your body and your mental health, eventually your body or your mind will force you to. And that's the health crisis. That's the burnout. You'll get to a point where you simply cannot go any further, and your body will say, "I'm done. You know, we're not doing this any longer, buddy. So you figure it out." Right.
Right.
So um, I really was to that point. I would say that I don't know how many people notice this in my work environment, but I would certainly go to the office, close the door, hide from everyone, put my head on my desk, and just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And did that for quite a while. I was still preaching. I was still leading staff meetings because I had to, but I was in a very, very bad spot. And so eventually there were a few things that came together one particular week, and I said to Gayla, I'm going to have to call the district superintendent and have a conversation. But because I don't have it in me to go any further. This is the very end.
Right.
But leading up to that, Neil, that was in October. Leading up to that, there were decisions that I made, thank God, to talk to my doctor, and finally, I use the word finally because I resisted this for too long, to go and see a counselor. And once I started to take those steps, I was still sliding off the cliff, but I knew the right things to do because I was getting help from my doctor. I was starting medication. I was seeing a counselor, and I could see some steps forward. And the first one of those, or one of those first ones, would be me saying, I've got to take a break. I've got to step back from this and get myself to a healthy place. And so that's how it went.
Did you know then that stepping back ultimately would lead to like stepping away completely from Moncton Wesleyan or from ministry for a time? Or were you still hopeful that I'll be able to come back and take this thing on? Or what was that like for you?
I was really quite numb. I remember one of the board members at Moncton saying to me, when it was announced that I was taking a leave of absence, and he said, "This is what great comeback stories are made of," or something like this. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a great comeback story,
Right.
or if this is going to be I'm out of here story, right? I'm never coming back. I just remember being numb, and Gayla and the kids say, like, I just sat in a chair for a couple of weeks, and I was just numb. And then I slowly came out of that and really got healthy again. And then at that point, it was more of a clear-headed decision making. Do I have it in me? Do I have what that church needs? And really, at that point, I felt like, you know what? I think I did what God wanted me to do. Somebody had to go in there and do a transition with Dr. Buckingham, a great leader who had led the church for 44 years. And I think now it's time for someone else to pick it up from here. And then there was a season, frankly, where Gayla and we did think we were probably done with ministry. And it just seemed like that was the end. And I don't know, like, whether to say we were okay with that or we weren't okay with that. It just was what it was. It just felt like this is the end. And then the district came and asked us about Graham and Ann. That's another story. But here we are.
Yeah. So, what were some of the key things that you learned along the way about yourself, or about anxiety, or about whatever? What were the things that helped you begin to heal and feel like yourself again?
Well, I think in the learning about medication was a wonderful thing, because my my body, my mind just simply wasn't managing the chemicals, wasn't mixing the chemicals in a way that was healthy. And there are, ways to fix that and help that. And so that was terrific. And the counseling really helped me figure out, what are the real triggers? Like let's, just keep peeling that onion until you get back to what are the real things that need to be processed, that need to be resolved, that need, that you need to, if you can't fix them, if they're not fixable, then you've got to, you've got to find a rhythm in a life that is healthy and sustainable for you. And everybody's different. Everyone's got different thresholds and capacity for stress and workload and all of those things. And I'm okay with saying, maybe my capacity's here. Hey, if yours is there, woo, good for you. But
Yeah.
I'm okay with knowing who I am and what works for me. And so those things were important. I think knowing knowing yourself and your triggers and the things that the barriers or the guardrails that I need to put in place for my life. These are the things that work for me. And, all that was important. So, I'm not perfect. I still have times when I get pressed down pretty hard, and I realize, okay, this is not sustainable. I'm not doing well. And Gayla and I talk about it, and we talk about the things, why? What are the things that are causing me to feel this way? And we process those and talk them through, and so it's a lot healthier now. And I wouldn't have chosen to go through what I did, but here I am, and I'm happy, Neil, really to share the story, because I wouldn't want to. I think it's avoidable, and I wouldn't want to see other people go through a burnout or a crash or a health crisis.
Right.
If they can take some steps now to prevent that. Yeah.
We're not just talking to pastors. I'm hoping we're talking to all kinds of people here tonight, but we all, I think, are comparing ourselves to the next guy or the next girl. Somebody who only has 2 kids and they're struggling. They're saying, well, this person has 6 kids and they seem so happy. And, all I see is their pictures and how great things are going and how good their kids get along. I think you helped me to become maybe just, okay, like, it's not wrong for you to be at this capacity and to live fully into that. Right.
And you can get lost in, but who am I, and what is, what are the gifts that God has given me? And so I think that was really a good point of healing for me when I realized that I can stop trying to be whatever, and I can be comfortable with the capacity that God has given me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
I know your wife well enough to know that Gayla would rather get a shovel and start to dig her own grave than sit beside you behind the camera here and talk. But what do you think, like, from your family's perspective? I'm thinking about kids and spouses and people that are living under a roof with a dad or a mom or a spouse who's they can see they're struggling, and they know it's a delicate subject, How did all this
It
affect
is,
the family? How did she approach you? What has she learned? How did it affect her? And what has she been able to do maybe to, because I think there's probably all kinds of healing that was needed for both of you. What did that look like?
yeah, for sure. No, I mean, that's all true. And for the kids in Gala, like at, when, when, when I was going through this at Moncton, it was not good timing. I don't know if there ever is good timing, but
Yeah.
we were trying to get, I was trying to hang in there. Autumn was in grade 11 and I was trying to get her through high school. And she attended the Christian school at the church. And I thought, I've got to finish, at least one more year and get her through school. And I just couldn't do it. And so there was this moment we sat together as a family, and I told them that I was going to take a leave of absence. And there's this moment of dad's broken, like it was pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in a lot of ways I had, carried the family and had a certain responsibility on me. I mean, Gayla and I carried it together, but still it was, anyhow, I getting convoluted there. I don't want to go too deep in those weeds, but it's, so something that we had to walk through together as a family, and certainly, a major health crisis or a crash or a burnout, it doesn't go away overnight. And there's some not fear, Neil, but some uncertainty, like
Yeah.
what's next?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to us? You know, because he had this job, and maybe he's not going to have a job, and maybe we're going to have to move, and it's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I know I can't speak for Gayla, but I know it was a very difficult season, and it's normal to look at the church and think, how could the church have done things differently? And that's normal, and it's probably normal for any occupation that people are in.
Sure.
And I don't, like I said, when I looked to see who was pushing me off the cliff, it wasn't the church, it wasn't my job, it was me. And so, I don't point my finger and blame at the church, but certainly there's some stuff there that probably even now remains to be fully processed.
Mm-hmm.
And healing continues.
Yeah. Well, I think that's encouraging, to me, because I think we always want things to happen on a calendar, on a clock. And, when our gas tank in the car is empty, we can pull into a station and put the card in the pump and pull the trigger on the spigot, and it fills up. And then we drive off full again. And our bodies, our souls, our minds do not seem to operate on that schedule.
No.
What are some of the things that refuel you and help you, and like some of the things, maybe even guardrails that you've put in place?
Yeah.
As a result.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't negotiate now on my guardrails because I can't. And I was very upfront with the church here, and I still am, and say, look, this is me, and this is what I can do. This is what I can give. This is what I have to offer, and it has its limits. It just does. But if you're happy to work with me on these things, and if we can do this together, then great. But if you need more than that, I can't give you more because I don't have it. And so they're very good about that. And I know, Neil, when it's time, when I have to go for a walk on the beach. I can tell. It's just like, okay, it's time. You need to go to the beach and do some beach combing, and that's life-giving for me. And I've just started to do some drilling of beach glass and some woodworking with driftwood and things like that I find life-giving as well.
Yeah.
And I've never been a real hobby person, and but I'm learning to do more of that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of some of the specific guardrails. I mean, for me, if I watch too much news, I can tell. It's just I gotta back off.
Right.
Things like that. Yeah.
Cool. Resources. Where would you point people who are struggling?
Well, with anxiety specifically, there's a book called The Anxiety Cure by Dr. Archibald Hart. The Anxiety Cure by Dr. Archibald Hart, and which was phenomenal for me, was very, very good help. The Emotionally Healthy Resources by Pete Scazzaro and his wife, Jerry. All of those things were tremendous resources. I think
I heard it the other day, actually.
Okay, yeah. No,
waiting on it to arrive still.
Yeah, no. I mean, those are books that I find I have found to be very, very helpful resources. I'm hoping when we get our new church built, I'm gonna do a small group on anxiety for people, and I think any setting that we can get ourselves into where it's free and open, just like this, to talk about how we're feeling and what we're doing to stay healthy, decisions we're making, what we're learning, I think, is very helpful. And I didn't have anything like that. I don't know that I would have gone. I don't know that I was ready to admit.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm all about it. I'm just like, man, we need those things that are life-giving. And so those are a few of the resources that have been really helpful to me.
Yeah. You mentioned too, of course, your conversation with your doctor about how you were doing and about your situation. Medication became part of that, and you talked about counseling as well.
Yeah.
Two things were super helpful to me as well, or two different people that were super helpful to me. But we resist it, don't we?
We do.
Not just
I resisted.
I mean everybody.
I resisted medication, and I can't get into the reasons why in this forum. But there are reasons why I try to take as few medications as possible. So that was a big step for me, agreeing to take this, and it was on the advice of my doctor and a couple other people that I consulted with, and they said, yes, absolutely, you need to do that. And then the same with the counseling thing. I would have to admit that prior to that, I didn't want to be one of those people who goes to counseling, and I'm embarrassed to say that, and that's dumb and stupid. And I learned my lesson, and now I tell everybody, if you can go to counseling, because we agreed, my counselor and I agreed to 3 sessions, and after 2, I was a totally different person. It was that helpful, and it just peeled back the curtain, or the cloud, or whatever metaphor you want to use.
Yeah.
And man, it was so good and helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I had the tendency to say, well, people who go on stress leave, what's wrong with them? Why don't they manage their life better?
Right.
And then all of a sudden my doctor said, you need to take some time off. And I was like, kind of like you, like, well, I can't be one of those people.
Yeah. Right.
And then it was all of a sudden I was like, actually, I think I probably should be one of those people, because I'm not doing anybody any good as I am. And again, I don't think it just pertains to pastors. I think you can be working, you could be fishing, you could be working at McCain's up here in Carleton County, you could be a government employee, but when whatever you're doing, and it's not just work, it can be demands of family life, it can be a mental health crisis, whatever it is, when the demands on you get to be to where you just are not yourself and you can't handle them, we've got to reach out. And it's hard for us to admit, but I think one thing I've noticed too is we find a new community of people when we become open about our struggles, and when we
good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yep, I agree.
So we got to wrap probably. This has been awesome, but I'd love to hear just. I want this show or this podcast, whatever we want to call it, to give hope to people.
Ooh.
And to point people in the direction that helped you. And we've been doing that here all along. But what words of hope maybe could you share? Just a few words of encouragement, some people that just find themselves right in the thick of it tonight, and they're not sure if they're going to go off the edge of the cliff, and they're in their mental health or in their career or in their family life. What words of hope could you share for us, Tim?
Yeah, well, I remember when I had this family meeting, the four of us sat down and I had to tell the kids what was up. And hope, you've got your cup of hope there.
I do.
Hope looked at me and said, "It's okay, it's okay," and I've never forgot that. And it's okay to not be okay, and you're really better off to tell someone, "I'm not okay." The longer that you deny that, suppress it, try to hide it, ignore it, you're slowly sliding off a cliff, and it will only get worse. And sooner or later, your body will win. So I would want to say to people that, listen to yourself, your body, your mind, but listen to others, talk to others. There's so much help and resources available. You don't need to crash. You can do something about it now, and do something for yourself and your family that will keep you or bring you back to a healthy place where you can be the person that you want to be, and stop trying to meet everybody else's expectations. Stop trying to live up to something that's not you, and just be okay with who you are. And if that means you can't do as much as somebody else, fine, still be it.
I like that face. Can you do that one more time? Nice.
You're not somebody else.
Right.
And we aren't all wired the same way. We're not built or designed the same way. So run your race. The calling that God has given you. Stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Find some healthy rhythms. Get some good people around you. Have people who you can trust, talk to, and take care of yourself.
Nailed it. When we talked, I don't know, hopefully people had a paper out or rewind it. Everybody write some of those things down. That was some great advice. when Tim and I talked, we went for a drive. This was back in June, early July.
Yeah.
And I asked him for a cup of hope that day. I just said, I'm not doing awesome, and I know you've been down a road that maybe is a little bit like this, or maybe different, but I'd love to hear. And we went for a drive, and when we came back, I actually took out my phone and I wrote down some of the things that you shared with me, and I've gone back to them a few times. And that one, listen to your body, listen to what it's saying, and it will win if you don't listen. When the freight train is running down the tracks,
Yeah.
it's heading for a crash. And anyway, your conversation with me was hugely life-giving, and I'm grateful to you for that. And I'm grateful that you've joined us tonight. I think tonight's conversation is going to help some people with where they're at too. We're in such a weird time when it seems like everybody from the young to the old to the working to the retired to kids in school are just all under seemingly a pressure cooker of some sort. And so my hope is that this brings you all hope tonight. So thanks a million, Tim, for being here. This has been great.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Well, hey, thanks, Tim. Your transparency and your vulnerability is courageous, and it's helpful because we feel like we can relate to you when we hear of your struggles. None of us like to have these things come into our life. None of us like to feel these ways, and it's tough for all of us to start to look for help. But if you're feeling that way tonight, I just want to encourage you to reach out, talk to your doctor. If you're feeling some of the anxiety that Tim was talking about, we are by no means experts, but if you want to talk, we're certainly open to that. But talk to your doctor about that, see what the right path forward is, find a counselor that you trust if you don't know one. We'd love to hear from you right here at Woodstock Wesleyan. You can email us, care@woodstockwesleyan.org, and one of us will reply. And if you're looking for some direction about who you could talk to, we'd be happy to help you with that. Listen, next week is going to be great as well. We're going to invite some good friends of mine, Dave and Rebecca Van Noppen, from the Ottawa area, actually. And they run a business and ministry called More Than Enough, where they help people with financial struggles. And they are just people of hope, I think. And you're going to love them, because who of us does not wonder what in the world should we be doing these days with our finances? Things have changed so much. And yet, I think you'll hear in our conversation that a lot of things haven't changed too. And so there's hope for that. So listen, thank you for joining us tonight for a cup of hope. I hope that your cup of coffee is empty, but your cup of hope is full. So we'll see you again next week.